Ladies and gentlemen, this is Steve Harney, the founder of Keeping Current Matters, with the September 2023 issue. All right. There's a lot of confusion in the market right now, ladies and gentlemen, and I want you to make sure that you understand. I want to make sure you understand your responsibility throughout that confusion. Most agents know what's happening. Good agents understand what's happening. Great agents can explain what's happening. And that's important. You need to be able to explain what's taking place in the market right now to take away the confusion. Because if we don't take away the confusion, what happens next? Well, then there's concern. And after concern comes fear. And after fear comes panic. And then, the dam breaks and there's all sorts of craziness happening. Let's make sure that we really learn the subject matter well enough that we can not only know it and understand it, but that we can, in fact, explain it. How do we do that? Here at Keeping Current Matters, we're exceptional at two things: aggregating the data and communicating that data simply and effectively. Nobody wants data and big charts and graphs and stuff that you can't even understand. We need that data. We need to collect that data. But going out to the consumer has to be a story, what that data means to them. Once you build that storytelling skill, you'll always be valuable. So let's jump right in. Home sales. We already know that home sales are way down. I wanted to give you exactly what those numbers are year over year. In the United States, we're down 16%. In the Northeast, Midwest, South, and West, we're all down, and we're all down double digits. Now, when you see a number like this, the first thing you might do is get a little bit depressed on the fact that, well, have a major part of your income going forward. But also remember, and I know I'm not trying to, lighten the situation here. We have to switch this. We have to change this. I get that. But if you're thinking about your income itself, remember, you get a percentage of the price of the sale. And over the last 3 years, the price of a house in many markets went up 50%. Some markets more than that, some markets a little less than that. So it's not like you lost that amount of money, maybe compared to last year. But if we go back to the last normal year of 2019, well, really, you're not making as many transactions, but you're making more money per transaction. Just keep that in the back of your head. Now, I know that the transactions mean people actually moving on with their lives, and that's what we help them do. I often say, let's not worry about the money. So I'm not trying to say, think about the money right now. What I'm trying to say is, don't worry so much about the money. Because in reality, we lost the amount of transactions, and we want to build them back up. But when we're talking about income, it wasn't as dramatic. If we compare it to 2019, the last good normal year, the last couple of unicorn years, that was kind of crazy. Now, there are two factors driving current sales activity down. That's inventory availability, there's not enough houses on the market, and mortgage rates. Unfortunately, both have been unfavorable to buyers. And we can also argue they're unfavorable to some sellers who would become buyers. Because the sellers who are sitting on a 3% mortgage don't want to give that up and buy a house with a 7% mortgage. I get that. Most of them won't. Now, if we take a look at that, what did that do to inventory? Well, inventory was a challenge long before rates jumped up. As a matter of fact, if we take a look at the average annual inventory of homes for sale going all the way back to 1999, it hadn't hit 6 months inventory even then. And 6 months is a normal inventory, ladies and gentlemen. That's when the market is balanced. There are people saying because of technology and because of the quickness in which we can do things now, maybe it shouldn't be 6 months, maybe it should be 5 months, maybe it should be 4.5 months. I'm going to stick with the 6 month number because that's what NAR sticks with, and I think that's still a legitimate number. When the market normalizes, you're going to want to take 6 month listings if you're not already. That's going to be important. So I'm going to go to 6 month inventory, and if we're taking a look at 6 months of inventory, outside of the bust years from 2006 all the way to 2011, we haven't hit 6 months. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that, and I want you to understand this, and I want you to understand it well enough to be able to explain it. Tell your sellers when you're going after the listing, they're in prime position right now to put the house on the market. They're going to get the best price with the least amount of contingencies because there's still a very strong buyer demand, but there's not enough houses to sell. And the reason for that is we could take a look at buildings first, all right? Single family housing, homes completed. And we can see that for 14 straight years, up until this year, for 14 straight years, it was below the 52-year average. Builders got hurt during the crash just like everybody else did. And they pulled back. They had overbuilt. If you look like in 2006, 7, 8, and 9, they had overbuilt in those years. And then they just cut back entirely. And for 14 straight years, they built less than they normally would build. That's leading to some of the inventory shortage we have right now. Another thing that for a period of time, right after the pandemic hit, people just stayed in their houses longer. So if we take a look at this, we could see that from 1985 to 2009, the average tenure in a house was 6.1 years. Now, if you look down at the bottom, it doesn't show every year. I want you to understand during that 1985 to 2009, NAR didn't take that survey every single year. But every single year that NAR did take that survey is represented here. So I don't want you to think I missed some years. That's not what happened. So what wound up taking place is that from 1985 to 2009, people stayed in a house about 6 years. That number jumped up 50% right after the crash, where people are now staying in a house 9.3 years. So what does that mean? That's less turnover of that inventory. And what does that mean? Less inventory coming to the market. So I want you to understand between builders not building, they're building a lot now, but builders not building for 14 years at the normal level, and homeowners staying in the house longer. That's also added to the inventory shortage we have right now that's very acute as sellers are sitting back saying, I don't want to give up this low mortgage rate. And what does that mean? Well, so far this year, let's take a look. The blue represents how many months inventory we had each of those months. The red is how much we're missing to get to 6. And we can see that we have about 50% of the inventory we really need. If we take a look at the situation and we look at the fact that if we look at the August each year, new listing count in August of each year, what we can see is that if we compare it to the normal years, forget about those unicorn years, but if we compare it to the last 3 good normal real estate years, we're way below what we need to be in new listings. Active listings, people keep on talking, well, active listings are going up, the listings are getting better, and they are. The challenge is they're nowhere near where they need to be. And the total listing count, same situation, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you might not want to break down each one of these things, so I put it all on one slide for you. And this compares August to the last 3 normal years in real estate, the August of those years. So we can see that new listings, active listings, and total listings are all down. And we should let sellers know that. I'm not sure they realize that. They know that they're staying in their house because of the mortgage rate. I don't know if they know so many are. Because again, that gives an opportunity to someone that is thinking about making the move to really get top dollar for their house and also to remove some of the contingencies in the negotiation. And I want to give you a piece of information here that really shocked me. And I don't get shocked easy. I've been in the business 35 years. But this shocked me. All right. Well, inventory continues to be in short supply. August witnessed an unusual uptick in newly listed homes compared to July, hopefully signaling a return in seller activity heading toward the fall season, which typically is the best time to buy a home. As you know, what I attempt to do is make sure that we make things visual so your consumer can understand it. So if we take a look here, what happened was, for the first time in 7 years, the amount of new listings coming to market between July and August increased instead of decreased. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we only have 7 years of data from Realtor.com. But, remembering back, and again, I've been in the business 35 years, remembering back, this is pretty interesting. I don't think I remember 1 year that from July to August inventory went up. Now, I'm not ready to stand on that statement because I don't have the data behind it, But I don't think it's just the last 7 years. I will argue in the vast majority, if not all of the last 35 years, inventory didn't jump. There could be 1 or 2 years there was an exception, but this is a major thing. Now, it's only 1 month. We have to wait for next month, but it might indicate that sellers who really need to move are deciding, I can't wait any longer. Or it might indicate that just like the buyers, surprisingly, to all the experts, the buyer said, you know what, I don't really care what the interest rate is, I need to buy a house. People are shocked that even when it hit 7.5, the buyers are still out there. Maybe not as many, but they were still out there. Open houses are still full. There's lines around the block on some open houses in some communities. So the buyers are still out there even though mortgage rates rose. So they got over the sticker shock. Maybe we're starting to see sellers get over the sticker shock. But we know not every seller is going to do that. So let's take a look at the lending landscape right now. And this is a graph I'd like to show you because I think it's important. All right, inflation and its relationship with the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, I want everyone to understand that there's no way we can say this is what the mortgage rate is going to be based on any one metric. Mortgage rates are like a Rubik's Cube. You got to keep on twisting and twisting and twisting, and it could take you days, years. I've never got one. That's how complicated forecasting mortgage rates are. But if we do take a look at this one metric, it's kind of interesting. If you go all the way to the left, the dotted blue line going up was inflation in the early 70s. And what happened in lapse of time afterwards, what wound up taking place with 30-year fixed rate mortgage? Well, after a couple of years, what wound up taking place is that shot up, the dotted green line. Then the blue line, the solid blue line, it dropped. And almost immediately on that drop, so did the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Now, if we continue that all the way across, and obviously in 2009, 2010, there was some craziness because of the housing crash, but if we continue that all the way across, there is some correlation between those two numbers. And what's taking place right now? Inflation is dropping like a rock. 30-year mortgage rates haven't followed it yet. But most experts believe that they are going to follow it, and we're going to see high sixes by the end of this year. And I think when there's a 6 at the beginning of the number, a lot of people's attitudes are going to change. It's almost psychological. And they believe that it's going to be in the 5s by the middle to the end of next year. At 5, the floodgates are going to open. So what we're doing is we need to be patient right now, because as the Fed, and I'm not going to take sides on whether the Fed's doing it right or wrong, but as the Fed is driving down inflation and hurting the housing market to some degree right now, in the long term, if the mortgage rates follow, all right, then we're going to have a really, really strong market. Now let's jump over to home prices. Let's jump over to another part of the lending standards, the NEPO buyers. Now the word NEPO is kind of, nepotism, and it has a negative connotation that shouldn't be. Nepotism means you kind of favor your family. That's called a family business in my mind, but it's had a negative connotation over some time. So I want you to understand that if you're reusing this, that you could get a negative pushback on it. But I also want you to understand that the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Fortune magazine, Forbes magazine are all using the term. So that's a term that's in the market right now, so I want you to be aware of it. You have to decide whether or not you want to take on those 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people that are going to say, well, I don't think it's fair that, some buyers can get help from their parents. We're going to get that pushback no matter what happens. All right, so that's where that NEPO comes from. But again, all the major reporting institutions are using the term, so I wanted you to know the term. And 38% of recent home buyers under the age of 30 used either a cash gift from a family member or an inheritance in order to afford their down payment. As a result, a large share of young homeowners can be labeled NEPO home buyers, meaning they receive family money to purchase a home. Ladies and gentlemen, the way I see that is families helping their kids. And I will guarantee you one thing. Much of that money came from the parents' house. The wealth that the parents built in their house. So again, when people talk about, well, is home ownership really building generational wealth? Oh yeah, very much so. Because when the parents own a home, the chances the kids own a home dramatically increases. And part of the reason is the parents are better off financially and can help their children out. And again, there are some people who are going to take objection to Nepo. You know, it's a family helping one of their family members. Now let's jump to home. Oh, again, I keep on wanting to jump to home prices too quickly. All right. Down payment assistance can help for the people who don't have rich parents. Down payment assistance can help first-time home buyers who don't have help from family to afford a home. Rental assistance can help families reduce their costs and help them save up for a down payment. Whether you're a loan officer, whether you're a real estate agent, please make sure you understand those down payment assistance programs, because not everyone has a parent that owns a home. There are some people that are changing the metric in their entire family now. They'll be the first one in their family to own a home. And they'll build that wealth over time and over the future generations. All right? So please make sure you know that these things are available. Now let's get to what I really want to talk about, apparently, is home prices. Because I wanted to congratulate you in a very, very big way. I made a big point of saying that coming into this year, more people thought that housing prices were going to fall than any year prior that was ever recorded, going all the way back to 2010, the first year they took this survey. And in January of 2023, a survey was done by NerdWallet that said that 67% of people thought there was going to be a housing crash in the next couple of years. So we went on a mission to make sure that we let people understand that that wasn't going to take place. Because again, when we're talking about people being concerned, we were talking about that concern turning into fear, that fear turning into panic, and that panic turning into a paralysis. So we went after this, and I just want to congratulate everyone on this call. You did a lot of tremendous things in order to help people understand. You got the word out in the blogs, you got the word out in when you listen to deep dives, you got the word out with our infographics, and you know, every single thing that we did, the monthly market reports, everything we did. And look what happened. It's working, ladies and gentlemen. Less and less people think that prices are falling. We're down to 24% from 37%, which was the December number and also the January of this year number. So you should give yourself a hand. If you're sitting by yourself, give yourself a hand. If you're sitting in a room with a bunch of other people, everybody give each other, a rounding applause. This is amazing what we were able to accomplish. But the job's not over yet. Still, 1 of 4 Americans believe prices will depreciate. Now, I want you to understand that. If you have another couple over for dinner, 1 of those 4 people think prices are going to fall. I hope it's not you. If you go to a barbecue and there are 16 people at the barbecue, 4 of those people think that prices are still falling. We have to educate those 4 people. And if you're walking out of your place of worship this weekend, and there's 400 members of the congregation walking out to the parking lot together, understand 100 of them think prices are still going to fall. Let's turn that around. This should be on your phone. Because what wound up taking place is very easily understood. Appreciation got out of whack last year, to be the first half of last year. What happened the second half of last year? A correction to that out of whack appreciation that occurred at the beginning of 2022. But what's happened so far this year? Prices each and every month are showing appreciation. Okay? So it's definitely starting in February. And I backed it up with 3 more pricing indexes showing the same exact thing, ladies and gentlemen. So and each of those numbers are going to be different because each have a different methodology. They might look at a different set of numbers to some degree. The FHFA only looks at government-sponsored loans. Case-Shiller looks at all properties. Everyone's going to have their own methodology. But what do they all agree? Things got out of whack at the beginning of last year. There was a correction, and now we're going back to normal appreciation. It's important people understand that. As far as going forward, what we always depend on is the home price expectation survey. a nationwide panel of over 100 economists, real estate experts, and investment and market strategists. Pulsomics surveys them every quarter. Here's the latest survey. This is what they think are going to happen with prices going forward. Now, ladies and gentlemen, people always ask, well, how come 2024 they think is going down? They adjusted 2023 pretty dramatically, and things are moving so fast right now, I just don't think they got to the adjustment on 2024. I think the next quarter numbers are going to come out, and I think that we're going to see that 2024 number is going to be higher also, in the threes. But they dramatically adjusted that number. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at the bottom line of this table. They last quarter thought their prices would be down by 2% by the end of this year. Now they think they're going to be up 3% by the end of this year. Just in 90 days, they made that switch. But they're not the only ones. These are well, not 90 days, I shouldn't say that, in 180 days, the beginning of the year. So this is what we have right now, where these are major entities that projected things in December of last year, where they thought prices were going to be at the end of 2023. And to the right is their current forecast. So people got crazy. Look at AEI, the American Institute, the Enterprise Institute. They thought prices were going to go down 15 to 20%. Now they think they're going to go up 6%. They went from the most negative to the most positive. But all that's saying is this thing happened quickly. When they saw prices dropping at the second half of last year, they thought that was going to continue, and we were going to walk into another 2008. We here said, no, that's not going to happen. Let's take a look at inventory. Why would sellers rush houses to the market if they have a 3% mortgage rate? They couldn't rent for what they're paying in their mortgage right now. So we fought that narrative then. And luckily, we were right. So what we're going back to, ladies and gentlemen, I think a much more normal appreciation, and that is good for the market. If you look back 48 years, if you take out 21 and 22, if you look back 48 years, what you can go ahead and see is that this is the normal, non-seasonally adjusted appreciation for each month. So this is how much houses go up each month, and we can see it tails off. Here is this year's appreciation compared to that, going through June, the last numbers we have available to us. What we're doing is we're returning back to normal appreciation. That's a really good thing for the market. As wages go up and eventually as mortgage rates come down, if prices remain stable, then what winds up taking place? Affordability goes up. And that's one of the biggest challenges in the market right now. Now, in order to get that done, we need more houses in the market too. There's no question about that. And I think that we should be looking at equity to help people with that. Because we know without a doubt that one of the major reasons that people are not putting their house on the market is they have a low interest rate, a low mortgage rate. How low? Well, 70.7% of people would have a mortgage less than 4%. 70.7% of this country has a mortgage less than 4%. That's crazy, ladies and gentlemen. Just crazy. But that's why they're not moving. They're afraid to give up that low mortgage. As a matter of fact, I put it into a graphic, and I'm not saying this is, definite, this is the case. No, what I'm saying is basically, if you have less than a 3% mortgage, you're probably not going to sell. That's the blood red. The regular red number is you're between 3 and 4%, you're probably not selling. If you have between 4 and 5 right now with mortgage rates at 7 as I'm recording this, you got to think hard before selling. If you're between 5 and 6, you're probably going to sell. There's not that big a difference. And obviously, if you're over 6, and I don't know who has mortgage over 6 anymore, but if you have a mortgage over 6, I guess those are people that bought more recently, maybe. You're going to sell. It's not going to matter to you that they're now, in the high 6s, low 7s. All right? Now, that doesn't mean that the people in the red areas are not selling. Understand that. We sell 11,000 houses a day. We sold 11,000 houses yesterday. We sold 11,000 houses today. We'll sell, on average, 11,000 houses tomorrow. Because people still have to move. People get divorced. There was a recent survey, I kind of laughed at it. 7% of divorced people said they would still live together because the mortgage rate was low. I'd like to meet those 7% of the people that think that living in agony is better than giving up a mortgage rate. But really what that means is 93% of the people would move. That's important that we understand those things. There are people, a young couple, that, when it was cool when they first got married to buy a condo above the pizzeria in a really cool street in town because the walkability score was so good. But now they're pregnant with twins. That one-bedroom condo ain't going to cut it. They want what many American families want, a backyard to put a swing set in. Their kids are going to be more important than their mortgage rate. So there's going to be a whole bunch of reasons. There's death, there's divorce, which we already talked about. There's people getting promotions, really great ideas. Somebody in San Diego has a 3.5% mortgage rate. They just got their perfect job, the job they've always been wanting at the University of Pittsburgh. What, they're going to give up their future to save on the mortgage rate? No. They're going to sell their house in San Diego and they're going to move to Pittsburgh. And that brings up the other part of the story. Because understand that there are some people that have a tremendous equity. If someone's moving from San Diego to Pittsburgh, it might be that they have enough equity in their house that they could really put a sizable down payment, if not pay all cash in Pittsburgh. So I want to jump at that. Mortgage rates are less relevant to older homeowners. The survey done by Credit Karma says that about 1 in 4 U.S. homeowners, 26%, say high mortgage rates would not impact the decision on when to sell their home. Of those 26% of homeowners, 43% say it's because they would not need a mortgage to buy a new home. Well, the reason that older homeowners aren't worried about mortgage rates is because they have tremendous equity in their home. And if we break down those numbers, if we break down that 26%, 35% of baby boomers, 23% of Gen X, then millennials, then Gen Z. That 35%, many of them own the house free and clear. They can make a move. As a matter of fact, we just got new data in showing exactly what this means. 38.7%, the dark green, those are people who own their home free and clear. If they own a 4-bedroom colonial and now they're empty nesters and they're looking to move into a 2-bedroom condo near the water in a warmer climate, they'll probably be able to sell their 4-bedroom colonial on Long Island and buy cash to place that in Florida. And they might even have money left over. 30% of Americans have a mortgage with more than 50% equity. The average equity in the country right now, according to CoreLogic, is $294,000. Many of those people can go ahead and sell their house. And if they can't buy the next house all cash, they could put a sizable down payment down to keep the mortgage, even if it is at 7%, not a stifling monthly expense. Then we go to 28.8% have between 10 and 30%. 8.6% have, between 30 and 50%, 20.8%. 8.6 have between 10 and 30%. And people that have less than 10%, have equity but less than 10%, that's down to 1.72%. People in negative equity, people say, wow, people in negative, it's 0.12%. But let's look at the green. I think there's an opportunity to talk to those sellers. And we already know that according to the survey, 26% of them are saying, I don't really care about the mortgage rate. Let's talk to those people. Let's help them understand how they can use the equity in the house to move on. As a matter of fact, for the next several deep dives, there's those Monday morning half hours that we dive deep into it. All right, we're going to be talking only about inventory. That's what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to break it down just like we broke this down. Because what we need, ladies and gentlemen, we need this. Most agents know what's happening. That's not helping anybody, except maybe them. Good agents understand what's happening, and that's cool. I'm glad that they got that understanding. Great agents can explain what's happening. What KCM tries to do is identify the great agents in the country, or the agents who want to be great. And we try to help you. We try to give you all the tools you could possibly need to reach that greatness. That's what we do. For example, please, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you know that the full buyer and seller guides are now available. They will make you look like $1 million. You can personalize them. They're very professionally done. It's like a professional magazine, all right, that you can give to buyers and sellers to trigger things, all right, trigger conversations. You could email them the PDF version of it, let them see it, and ask them if they have any questions. You can use it as a door knock, a knock on the door. Only carry one. You listen, if you're interested in getting this, give me your email address and I'll send it to you. Think about all the ways you could just use this one thing that KCM provides to you to really set yourself apart as that true professional, that great agent in your marketplace. But let's not forget the most important thing. Great agents take pride in making things easier to understand. We've all been put in a situation in a doctor's office or a lawyer's office that they talk all this jargon and we don't not really sure what they even mean, and we're sometimes too embarrassed to even ask the questions because we don't understand what they mean. Let's make sure we talk in simple terms. Let's make sure that we not only know what's happening, understand what's happening, that we can explain what's happening. And here's the test to that. Albert Einstein's one of Einstein's greatest quotes. If you can't explain it to a fifth grader, you don't understand it well enough. Now, I'm not suggesting that your buyers and sellers are fifth graders. I'm not suggesting that. What I am suggesting is let's simplify what we say. Let's use graphics, not convoluted graphics, very simple graphics to make the points we're looking to make. Because, ladies and gentlemen, in the marketplace right now, there are a lot of people that need help. And my argument has always been that we have a moral obligation to help them. Not just a professional obligation, a moral obligation. They depend on us. They depend on us to help their families make the move that they're trying to make, whether it's for good reasons or very difficult reasons. That dependency is still there. Let's live up to our reputations. The great agents, you know what you need to do. The agents who want to be great, you know where you need to get to. And again, KCM will help you in any way we possibly can. Till the next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember, keeping current matters.